The Battle of Marseille refers to the combat and other actions from August 21 to 28, 1944 which led to the liberation of Marseille by French forces in World War II. The groundwork was laid by the Allied invasion of southern France in Operation Dragoon on 15 August 1944 by the United States 7th Army, with major support from the French First Army. Background: along with Toulon, the main port for the French Navy, Marine Nationale, National Navy, informally, the port of Marseille was a vital objective. The port, its facilities and the rail and road links leading up the Rhône Valley, being essential to the liberation of southern France and the ultimate defeat of German forces. After the successful execution of Operation Overlord, the Normandy landings, attention shifted to the south. Most ports in the north were unusable, or too heavily fortified, e.g., Cherbourg, Brest, Lorient, Saint-Nazaire, which made seizure and control of the French ports at Marseille and Toulon increasingly attractive. The French leaders pressed for an invasion in southern France, too. Finally, after many delays, on the 14th of July 1944, Operation Dragoon was authorized by the Allied Combined Chiefs of Staff. The groundwork was laid by the Allied invasion of southern France in Operation Dragoon on 15 August 1944 by the United States 7th Army under General Patch, with support from the French First Army who began landing on 16 August and would within days amount to two-thirds of the Dragoon troops on the ground. Patch gave the order to General Jean de Latry de Tassigny to take the cities of Toulon and Marseille, which were to be attacked simultaneously, with de Larminate in charge of attacking Toulon. Defenses: German defenses centered on almost static infantry units guarding the coastal areas, with 11th Panzer Division providing a mobile reserve. At Marseille, the 244th Infantry Division, Wehrmacht, provided the main defense, comprising 3 grenadier regiments, the 932nd, 933rd and 934th together with an artillery regiment, utilizing existing French army defensive points, including large artillery batteries, provided a reasonable seaward defense. On the landward side, augmented with mines and the digging of weapons pits, trenches and tank obstacles. On the 20th of August they scuttled the ships that were in the harbor, 1 tanker, 3 passenger ships, 20 cargo ships and a cable-laying ship. Resistance: Marseille played host to 2 major resistance movements, the non-communist coalition known as Mouvements Unis de la Résistance, MER, with 800 men, and the French Communist Party Francs Tireurs Partisans, FTP, with 2,000 men. Gaston Defferre was a leading figure in MER as well as heading the Allied intelligence network. Both MER and the Allies had operated a policy of non-arming of communist groups. In February 1944 the creation of French Forces of the Interior, FFI, in theory merged the two groups, however they stayed opposed to each other until the FFI was absorbed into the regular French army. On the 23rd of August, with French army troops approaching the city suburbs, the resistance took over the city's prefecture. The German garrison could easily have destroyed this opposition, but seemed distracted by the regular French army. 15 to 29 August. Softening up using heavy bombers to attack gun positions around Marseille began on the 12th of August. The city had few anti-aircraft defenses. The 23-24th attacks scored some direct hits on gun positions in the Marseille area, and roaming fighter bombers took on targets of opportunity. On the 21st of August the approaches to Marseille were cut, isolating the Marseille garrison. Units closed in on the suburbs. The Germans blew up the Marseille transporter bridge to try to block the port. Ordered to clear the suburbs of Marseille, on the 24th of August 3rd Algerian Infantry Division occupied the center of Marseille. General Joseph de Goislard de Montsabert decided that with the resistance rising up and 1st Combat Command moving on the old port, he would call upon the Germans to surrender, but was refused. Pockets of resistance are mopped up on the 26th of August. Enemy explosive-controlled boat attack on minesweepers who are sweeping channels to the port, is broken and 8 are sunk. The main German resistance centered on the old fort of St. Nicholas. French artillery opened up on the fort, and after 2 days it was clear that resistance was futile and the Marseille garrison surrendered on the 27th of August. On the 29th of August Marines from the US Augusta and US Philadelphia accepted the surrender of Germans on the fortified harbor islands. French casualties were over 1,800 and they took 11,000 prisoners. The ports of Toulon and Marseille were captured in 14 days, when the plan of attack had estimated D+40. In World War II the old port of Marseille was left in complete ruins. According to eyewitness accounts, in January 1943, the Nazis, aided by the French police, dynamited much of the historic old town and demolished the gigantic aerial ferry or transporter, an engineering tour de force that had become a major landmark of Marseille, comparable to the Eiffel Tower in Paris. The main Marseille Fosse port facilities suffered damage from 2,000 mines that were used to destroy quays, bridges, moles, cranes and sheds. However, with hard work, 2 weeks later, the first ship entered the port to begin unloading supplies. The landing of supplies increased rapidly, with 63,000 tons of rail freight moving from the port in September, plus 220,000 tons by truck. A fuel pipeline was built. It started at Martigues and utilizing storage tanks in the Lamide refinery. The harbor was mined and it was the 9th of September when the first tanker docked. A tug assisting at dock hit a mine. Pipe laying started the same day. 6 teams, each laying over 2 miles of 4-inch pipe a day. Interim storage and dispensing points were built. When completed, it was capable of moving 500 tons of petrol a day, which reduced the problems caused by a shortage of jerry cans and trucks. A second 6-inch pipeline would be laid and it eventually reached the Surburg, 850 kilometers away. By spring 1945, 1,200,000 gallons were being pumped every day, meeting the requirements of both the 7th United States Army and the 1st Army, France. By mid-October, with the repairs to the railway lines, especially bridges, freight increased. The southern route would become a significant source of supplies to help the Allied advance into Germany, moving over 100,000 tons a week and providing about 1/3 of the total Allied requirement. Aftermath: the left-wing French resistance took over the city administration and the American forces did not have an easy time of getting their requirements met. Using the city as a rest and relaxation center was not appreciated. General Charles de Gaulle took a dim view of FTP and the part it played in the liberation. He ensured that these paramilitary units were absorbed into the regular army, so eliminating any threat against him. The French army presence in southern France combined with the Leclerc's Second Armored Liberation of Paris elevated de Gaulle to the leader of the provisional government of the French Republic in the eyes of the Allied politicians. The port of Marseille had been the prime route for the shipping of Red Cross parcels from Lisbon to the International Committee of the Red Cross in Geneva, for onward transport to POW camps. Operation Dragoon put a stop to that, although a few parcels did start arriving again through Toulon in November.